Welcome to No Filter Truth, brought to you in part by nobody. What's going on, y'all? Today I wanted to say, first of all, that I love y'all. All that are listening and all that are hearing this, I love you. We don't hear this enough, so we have to speak more and more about love. And that's not the topic of today, but it is love, you know? And so with all that being said, let's really get into it today. Today's topic really, it's kind of funny to me because on several fronts, we don't understand that feeding takes on a lot of forms. You can feed a monster. You can feed a tapeworm. You can feed a goldfish. You can feed an animal. You can feed a person. You can even feed plants. But I want to leave you with something. What you feed will live, and what you do not feed, that will die. Let me say that again. What you do not feed will die. And depending on how you look at it, that could be a good or a bad thing. A lot of times they've even, doctors and scientists have done a study that even with children, newborns, right out of the mother's womb, if there is no interaction, you can feed it, put it in an incubator, you can put it in a hard plastic case. But if you don't have that human interaction touch, that baby will not live. They've done the study to say that less than 3 days, the baby died. It had the food, the air, the oxygen, everything. But without that human touch, preferably from the mother or even a human period, that baby died. That is a phenomenon within itself that we need to really look at. Feeding. Feeding is not just physically feeding. Feeding is not just physically, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to ingest something into my body, or I'm going to get this protein shake, or I'm going to give my son or daughter or children some food for their nourishment. That's only one facet. Let's talk about interaction, human interaction. Let's talk about feeding the emotions, feeding the physical, the mental, the intellect, the soulish realm, the emotional realm, not just the physical. So now that we've gotten into that, let's talk about feeding, because a lot of people have not learned about feeding. It would branch into love, but I'm not going to get into that because there's several things that I want to deal with when it talks about love. But that's another topic for another day. But if you start feeding your body, let's talk about your body. If you feed your body junk and toxic things, your body will break down and it will not function properly. That which you do not feed properly will die. So you can get all the sugary products, the candy, you can get all the salt things, whether we're talking about popcorn, whether we're talking about sugary things like candy bars, donuts, you have the juices, that stuff made from concentrate. You can have all of that. But if you don't feed and put your body in nourishment, it opens up windows for your immune system to break down, cancerous cells to actually activate in your body. Not just cancer, you can actually have things like tapeworms, you can have worms, maggots in your body if you do not feed it the proper thing, and it can malfunction. For instance, if you do not have your daily amount of water, after a while, your body will break down. Some people say, I ain't never drunk water in my life, or I don't like water. Well, you better get to it. If your body is over 80% water, why would you not put water in your system to replenish? We're talking about feeding, and I'm only on the physical realm. You feel what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't understand that feeding your body can actually extend your body's life. That's just one part. Talking about nutrients. This is not a health show. I'm not getting into the health segment. That'll be for another show. But look at what's going on. You can have that. If you feed things into your body that will clog up your system. I know with me, one of the things that I had to learn was, why was I snoring? Why was I going to bed and people saying, you snore, you're doing this? Well, if I don't eat right, and if I eat heavy things at the wrong time of day, guess what? Your body is going to clog up. Your pores are going to clog up. Actually, your sinus nasal passage will clog up. It's only that I've been on my real health kick for 2 years that the snoring has gone away. A lot of people say, well, I try to eat right. Do you really? Do you always eat fast food? Do you eat heavy foods? Some people are eating pastas and different other carbs so much you have doubled the intake that you need, and it's not burning off anything, and it's just sitting residue in your body. So then turn around, when you go lay down and you're not even resting properly, your body is telling you, hey, eat right. Some people are having ulcers in their body and not knowing it. Why? Because you're not feeding your body properly. Okay, let's get off the properly for the body. What are you feeding your mind? Now, this is going to boggle some people because it's going to really hit home. When you feed your mind nonsense, whether it's from television, internet, human interaction with toxic people. Think about that for a minute. If you don't feed yourself with that, what's getting ready to happen? You'll be clear. But if you clog your mind up with reality crap, which is nothing scripted, is an oxymoron, walking contradiction, if you will, why should I watch all this stuff about people's lives when I can't get my life together? For example, if I am not in a relationship and I'm single, why would I want to look at somebody's relationship that is toxic and they are single trying to deal with each other? You can make an argument and say, oh, I'm just doing this to unwind, but look at the contradiction in that. You're getting wound up on a show about somebody's lives who is not happy. You yourself are not really happy or satisfied, and you're looking for something. Oh, I just need something on. You don't need that. There's other TV shows if you must watch TV. You don't really even have to really watch TV to get into the frequency. And I don't like using that word too much because it's overused, but we really need to get into and tap into another frequency. For those who may not know what a frequency is, I'm not going to take it for granted. It's just, to explain it, it's just like how you'll have something in your car, which is called a radio, whether it's regular terrestrial radio, which has the FM and AM stations, or you have satellite radio. It works the same way on the principle that I'm talking about. Okay, you have a band, an FM band, which is a spectrum that will sometimes go all the way from 800 all the way up to sometimes it's 106, 107, and 109 I've seen in some states, which is the frequency, 109 megahertz. Look at what's going on. When you're in there for 88.9, okay, which is here is WEAA Morgan. 88.9 starts on the low end of the spectrum. They have a lower frequency. But if you, and the lower frequency, mind you, you can't tap in. The whole thing is the tower gives off only but so much of a signal. But if you go up to a 92.3, a 95.9, a 96.3 station, there is a higher signal, a higher frequency that covers more territory. And what do I mean by territory? It taps into a greater area. And see, sometimes we limit ourselves because we're on an FM band and we talk about we're woke, but we haven't gone to a certain frequency. We're at a low frequency. So while we're at 88.9, we can only reach but so far on the frequency. But we have to elevate our frequency, meaning our minds, to say there's something more than what I'm used to. So now I have to strive to strengthen or boost my frequency. And that's only by doing things that others aren't. What do I mean? If mentally you want to increase your frequency, you have to get into other things that feed your mind, your soul. Some people say your conscience. I don't want to get into some terminologies because it's going to kind of, some people might get confused. I want to keep this as simple as possible. One, that which you feed will limit you. I want to talk about that for a minute. Again, want to use the television. If it doesn't edify you to learn something or to grow and use in everyday life, get rid of it. For some people, it's like this. Some people love to do home improvement around the house. Well, guess what? You can get you books, but there's the DIY Network, the HGTV. You even have some other ones, the Man Cave. They have other shows. You can go on demand. You can go online. These things will help to broaden your horizon because you can use it in everyday life. Learning about laws that affect your everyday living. Look at that instead of taking it for granted, what you hear in politics, because people, even politicians high up, will lie every day and tell you stuff that really isn't true according to the laws of this quote unquote nation. I call it the corporation. But I digress on that. The example that I want to say is you need to get on a higher frequency. Now, one thing I will say to you is the higher your frequency is, the less people will be able to deal with you. They can't tap into you. What do I mean? When you're at a lower frequency, there's a breakdown that happens all the time. When you get to the lower frequencies, that's why they're limited in their reach, their span. Why? Because you have to realize that the lower the frequency, not only the limited space, the strength of the signal is low, but also you as a person can easily be swayed and intercepted. The stronger the signal or higher the frequency, the more you're able to stand and people cannot understand you. That's why a lot of people don't get you. They can't tap into your frequency because they aren't where you are. They will call you strange. They say, "What's wrong with you? You're weird. You're unique. I don't get you." You know why? Because if you're standing for something, we've been talking about this for the last couple of days, last couple of podcasts, if you don't stand for something and your character is off, people say, yeah, okay, fine, they're weird, they're strange, but that's who they are. But when you stand for something and they can't shake you, be prepared to be that outcast. They'll respect you in the end. Hear me clear. They'll respect you. They won't get you and they won't be able to shake you. Why? Because you're secure in who you are and your beliefs. That's that frequency. All right. So what I'm saying is elevate your frequency. Back to what I'm saying, feeding. You feed your mental capacity. Okay. And it gets into your subconscious. And people don't realize this. Have you ever been in a place where you really are like, why am I down in the dumps? Why am I do I have no energy? Why am I like so sluggish? Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You want to know why? Because what you're feeding yourself is killing you. Some people are social media junkies. All they know It's social media. Somebody says something on social media. Well, this is what it says. It's social media. Doesn't matter the output or frame, is like a Bible to them. Information can be straight wrong, but if they got it on social media, it's gold. So all they do is sit. They don't go outside anymore. Look at the kids today. Look at the kids today. Dealing with the coaches, I had car problems. And when you're low on resources and low on money, sometimes you get a ride. But I was walking 2 and 3 miles a day, 5 days a week. Okay, I got a ride when I got to, basketball practice as a coach. But getting there, it was brought differently. Okay, let's not get into what I did. Let's talk about what the girls did. The girls basketball team, what they did, first thing said, can I get a ride? Now, we know at nighttime, we say, you know what, yeah, at nighttime we make sure you get home and all that good stuff. But in the daytime, listen, get your butt on the bus or transportation. If you're walking down the street and you're 3/4 of a mile away from the school, why are you still asking for a ride in broad daylight? Go walk. It's a beautiful day. Catch the bus. But so much, can I get this? Can I get that? They don't understand that feeding yourself, and I want you to hear this, you're trying to get into a lazy mode, but social media is giving you that, well, I should be able to do this. Celebrities have this. What they don't understand is celebrities work for what they have. However you want to address it, that's what they have. So you're feeding something, and the more you keep doing it, can I have this? Can I have that? What have you worked for? And in trying to teach them and feeding them with knowledge and trying to get them to see that life is not going to give you everything, but you got to work for it. If you haven't done anything, how can you say or think that you can get something for nothing? All right, let's talk about that for a minute. Okay. My whole thing that I'm saying as far as feeding yourself, sometimes you have to realize if you want something, you're going to find a way to get it. So how do I feed myself to become that overachiever? How do I feed myself? Or how do I give myself the nourishment to do that what it is I want to do? Again, we're talking about feeding. So if we're talking about feeding, there's some things you have to cut out. It's just like a piece of meat, whether you're talking about chicken, pork, whatever, steak, whatever. You have a bone, you have meat, and you have gristle, which is not good for you. So before you do that, you got to cut away the gristle. You have to cut the bone out before you can ingest or digest that which you need to feed. And I'm not just talking about physically. That's one part. They say eat clean. Now, in eating clean, let me just say this. You have to remember something. When you're feeding yourself, before you can put something in, you have to put something, or something has to exit your body. So before you do anything, and I'm not even talking about physically, I'm talking about mentally and emotionally, as well as spiritually. One of the things, what do we have to do? Sometimes you need a spiritual colon cleanser. You need a detox. You need a colonic. You need to be cleaned out. Squeaky clean. Now, for some people, this is harder than others because you got a lot of junk on the lining of your system, whether spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And believe it or not, this goes hand in hand. I want y'all to see that. Hand in hand. So if I'm feeding junk into my system, whether it's mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically, I will not have the energy to endure what I need to endure. If you're dealing with toxic chemicals, fast food, you'll get it, but you won't get that nourishment. Your body will break down. You deal with toxic foods, negative Nancy's, negative Nathans, pessimistic Patricia, petty Patrick, meddling Martha, tattletaling Tisha. These are just names. Look at what's going on. You're going to be fed and clogged up. This is why I say you need to feed yourself, but you have to detox first. Number one. Number two, you have to stop being so entitled. What do I mean by that? I deserve the best. I did it. Yeah, we all deserve the best. But what are you doing to get to that point? All day today, I've been seeing so many, when I went on social media for a little bit, my timeline, when I went on Facebook, was filled with emotional, volatile, emotional charged posts, jabbing at women, jabbing at men. You talk negatively about a woman, but yet you want a good woman in your life. Where's the contradiction in that? All the way around. Same thing. Women are jabbing at men. All these memes, all these posts, sub-posts, comments. But you're jabbing for what? You want a good man or you want a good woman, but you keep talking negative. That is not feeding. All you're doing is putting junk in your system so that the real nutrients from the fuel that you need will not be in your system. Think about it. Stop doing it. Even if you want to, don't participate in it. Because if you keep feeding into it, it's going to create a monster. You have tapeworms, you have bulimia, you have maggots, you have other type of worms that will be in your body. Rotten eggs. And I don't mean just physical body, I mean spiritual, emotional, mental, as well as physical. Hear me. Hear me clear. You have to stop feeding yourself the toxic things. You cannot be ready for a relationship or want truthfully a relationship when your actions don't line up with it. That's why I say you need that colonic. Stop listening to negative people. I have people who say, I only do, I only go to 5-star restaurants. Well, that's a lie. I only go to these shopping centers, but you don't have a 6-figure income, right? Something's wrong here. Because if millionaires and high-profile politicians and their families can go to places like Target and Walmart, and they have much more money than you do, something's wrong with that. It's not the fact that you can't, but just the fact that you always are saying what you are and are not doing, but yet you're still miserable because you're holding up to an image. You're feeding yourself something that's not edifying you. Think about it. I'm looking at a lot of people right now, and this is the part that's getting me. I have minks, I have furs, I have, Ferragamos, shoes, I have different things, but you're still miserable. Michael Bloomberg said something, and he's a multi-billionaire. billionaire. So unless you're on a billionaire status, you can't even refute what I'm about to say. Michael Bloomberg said, and I read in an article and I also heard it from his mouth. He said, listen, I've had the same shoes, dress shoes, for 14 years. Wingtip shoes and penny loafers. And the first thing he says is, listen, I get the heels redone after certain times. You know, he gets the heels replaced and the soles as well as the instep. Same shoe for 14 years. You have to have a certain quality, and you're not doing it. And when you don't feed yourself that, what you're doing is you're doing yourself a disservice, and you will self-destruct unless you turn it around. Feeding. And some of you are starving yourself of the regular nutrients. I have a good friend of mine. He's a physical fitness trainer. And we talk about different things. And one of the things we talked about was how to eat. And how we used to be all big and burly and, and it wasn't all muscle. It was fat. You know, when you get older and you can be in shape, but then you wonder why you have a heart attack because you're so big and not muscular big. What are you feeding your system? I'm still saying that. What are you feeding your system? Because if you don't feed your system the correct things, your body will fail. Stress, you don't need to feed it. Yes, we have stress in our lives, but we don't need to induce it. We have stress in our lives, but we don't need to add to it. Toxic relationships is one. Toxic friendships is another, because toxic friendship is not a friendship at all. All that is somebody leeching to you. They're leeching onto you. They're robbing you of your good nature. They're robbing you of your resources. They're robbing you of your energy. That's what's clogging your frequency. It's giving you a whole lot of static. Okay, let's go to another part. Feeding. The people you hang around. Even some family members. I know right now there's only some family members I can see 2 times a year. And there's some family members I can't even see once a year. Once every 2 or 3 years is fine. My life is much better because of it. You have to lay aside those weights. Some people can say, I can't lose weight. What are you doing? You're stress eating. You're craving for things that you don't need. I'm not even talking about physical again. What are we talking about? Mental and emotional and spiritual. You're clinging on and you're trying to take on things as your own. Why? No. Why? You're taking on other people's problems unnecessarily. Why? Now you are toxic. Now you've taken those people as your own unnecessarily, and that's not your assignment. Why? Ask yourself that question, because guess what? Now you're taking their problems as your own, and you didn't need it. You're not in a relationship with them. You're not even friends. Yes, we ought to help people. I'm not saying don't help anybody. But when you get to a point where you're taking on other people's problems as your own, and you weren't meant to be in somebody's life, now you have to declutter yourself of their thinking, their whole process, their whole entire situation. Think about it. I'm talking about feeding. If you don't feed it, it'll die. Some people live to just be in vicariously in other people's lives. They just live to be in other people's situations. Stop it. If it's not already affecting you, leave it alone. If somebody brings it to you, that's a different story. But don't be meddling in that. Let it go. Let it go. Because sometimes what you're doing, first of all, you're not qualified for it. But second of all, it does more harm than good to the situation, to both you and those other people. Chill out. That which you don't feed will die. Let's talk about feeding for a minute. Feeding means that you have to prepare. You have to find some way to take it on. You have to find some way to internalize it. And some things we're being fed, force-fed, whether it's in media, via TV, movies, social media, interaction with humans, other humans rather. We got to get this straight. We can't stop. We can't continue to move in the same vein. I'm trying to tell y'all some good stuff. We're not there. We weren't meant to do that. This is feeding. And you have to be careful what you put inside you. I'm trying to keep this under 30 minutes. I don't think it's going to happen, but this whole broadcast. But anyway, what you have to realize is no matter what you do or what you say, you're responsible for. There's some places I can't even go anymore because my whole total man is not comfortable there. It's not. It's not. And I'm not just talking about clubs. I'm not just talking about casinos. I'm not just talking about lounges. I'm not even talking about being around drug dealers or people who smoke or anything like that. Sometimes there's some places I can't even go. Some people who have made the environment, yes, we can change and make a difference, but there's some things I don't even want to talk about. I don't even want to handle. The atmosphere is off. I am past that point in my life. I can't feed that. My body craves more. I've been clean. Some people in church say, I've been washed. Say what you will. I've been cleansed. So that don't edify me no more. Truthfully, it got me down when I was doing it anyway. I just didn't know it. But now, I know better. I can't hang around that. There used to be some times where I used to want to crave the large crowds. I don't crave that all the time. As a matter of fact, sometimes give me some smaller crowds and I'm just as happy. Because no matter where you are, sometimes you can block off some things, but there's a lot of input that comes to you in large crowds. If you don't believe me, go to a major city. I had an encounter in New York City. And I love New York. Don't get me wrong, love it. But I couldn't be in there 24/7. New York City. When I got down to the Avenue of Americas, and this was like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, rush hour, everybody. And I'm a spiritual being, so when I mean I'm a spiritual being, I'm really spiritually sensitive. I feel vibes from people. Yeah, no, I couldn't do that every day. I mean, I probably could if I want to, but my mind is somewhere different. I'm at a place where, nope, don't need to. Try going to Atlanta. Same thing. So much going on. And there's nothing personally wrong with these places, but that's what it is. Even sometimes in Baltimore, I'm on the trains, the public transportation, sometimes going downtown. Can't do it. Can't do it. So, with that being said, and I'm saying this to you, remember, choose carefully what you feed your body, whether it's your spiritual body, emotional, physical, or mental. Because what you feed those bodies will make the difference, whether you are in or out, whether you have a long-term durability. I saw someone, which was very interesting, and I saw a couple people, 60, 70, 80 years old, don't look a day over 40, 50 years old. You want to know why? And I talked to some of them. The first thing they said, yeah, they worked out. Yeah, they ate right. They did all these things. But they release stress and they don't get into things that do not edify them or build them up. All that junk, they don't do. In their bodies, they don't do. Get to that point where your bodies are a temple, not an open door welcome center. Get to a point where your bodies, yes, bodies, IES on the end, are filled with things that's going to give you fuel to go the extra mile. This is Big Luke, and this is all for No Filter. I'm out of here.